they can't beat the Rams both times this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 5 times. I said, I think Brady's going to crumble.
How about Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr.?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Punt Off with me, James Gonzalez, and John Alcorn. It is a pleasure to be with you, John, here tonight, or wherever you may be watching this, as this is a pre-recording of our show. Our schedules are just crazy, right, John? So we got to just link up whenever we can and make it happen. A $400 bike? Anyway, how are you, John?
You know, I won't say I do security. I would say this. A lot of people know. I do security at a business. I won't say it because all the other stuff keep confidential. But nothing surprises me anymore. Honestly, outside of UT, I'm not doing good, man. Literally, Joe Burrow. I'll leave that for the show because I have a lot to say. But football-wise, it's kind of average. Hopefully the Bengals play better and actually protect better. But other than that, just happy to be on the show. Work has been crazy. Literally working every day like Cardi B, just making those money moves.
Yes. So let's get started. The review of week 2, well, the Monday Night Football games. For some reason, there was a doubleheader in the NFL. And the first game was Tennessee at Buffalo. Buffalo, coming off the big win against LA on opening night. Tennessee came off the loss against the New York Giants at the end of the game. Well, it was 17-7 at the half Buffalo, and then Buffalo just stormed away. I mean, they set out Allen and Diggs, I think, at the start of the fourth quarter, I want to say.
Trubisky was starting before the end of the third quarter.
Yeah. The final ended up being 41-7. It pretty much was never in doubt. I mean, Ryan Tannehill was pretty much awful. And even Malik Willis came in to play, and they threw him into the fire, and that wasn't so good. But Tannehill quickly was sacked twice. He didn't throw for a touchdown. He had 2 picks. Josh Allen, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns. Once he was sacked once, but that's going to happen with a running quarterback. Derrick Henry, only 25 yards rushing. He did have 1 touchdown. Not much on the ground for Buffalo, but they did through the air. Stephon Diggs, really quick, 148 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. I mean, it just seems like those two, Allen and Diggs. And this was without, remember, Gabe Davis. He was out for this game, didn't really need him. That's how bad the Titans were and how great Diggs and Allen are together. And it's just amazing to see. As I predicted, I thought Buffalo was going to win the whole thing. It looks like it right now, as they're 2-0. Tennessee goes 0-2. What was your impressions of this blowout win by the Bills over Tennessee?
When you file for your taxes and do all these different things, isn't fraud's legal, right? Correct? Mm-hmm. So then why is Tennessee allowing Ryan Tannehill to pretend to be an NFL quarterback? At some point, this is not just about week 2. Clearly, also, Malik Willis is not going to be the future. There's 2 things here. Mark Variable, if this is any indication of their 2022-2023 season, not counting the postseason because it's been a crazy 2.5 weeks so far in the NFL, Mike Variable could be on the hot seat this offseason. Because when you, in 2020, I wasn't the biggest fan of the contract because Ryan Tannehill didn't deserve it. But I think, okay, he deserves a new contract. He earned it. I had no problem with that. But even before that contract, you go to back in January of 2020, where you pick, right, things were getting going, but they stopped Derrick Henry, a one-dimensional offense. He picks up Honey Badger, picks it off. You see the whole thing, and boom. Then the Texans obviously beat Buffalo. Then Texans lost against the Chiefs there. Because there's that Josh Allen's second year in the league. At some point, we have to be honest. I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's like a great guy. Played with Brady. I think sometimes we see guys as players, they were champions. They know how to play the game. They understand the fundamentals. They understand what is the defense going to do in the box. Is it a 3-4-3 or 3-4, whatever it is. But the Tannehill experiment failed. I get how in Miami it didn't work. Rightfully, Miami traded Vernon Davis, and he became a future potential second or third round Hall of Famer in Indianapolis and started at halftime. But now you have the experiment in Tennessee. Like, who honestly thought the Tennessee Titans were going to beat Buffalo? Set aside bias. So I have friends, James, that are even on social media joking about, oh, great, now we got Ryan Tannehill as our quarterback. We've seen this in the past. When you have veteran guys that get their second chance, I have no problem with giving second chances to guys that maybe didn't work out with their former team. Rightfully so. You transfer to quarterback your second to last year at A&M, and Justin Tucker beats you there too. So that's neither here nor there. He's not clutch in college, not clutch in the NFL. Point is, it didn't work. And then when you put your supposed future, throwing it to the fire, knowing the game's already over before the end of the third. So it wasn't Trubisky, it was Miraculous coming in before the end of the third quarter. My bad. Then that tells you he's obviously not the guy. Because if you really believed he was, look at the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's, they kept him in, but they kept Joe Flacco for that whole season. If they really wanted Lamar, I don't understand, what has Tennessee proved? You lost beat the Colts. You lost against Baltimore, who hasn't been to a Super Bowl since Joe Flacco. Buffalo is a Super Bowl contender. That AFC East may be potential toughest division or second toughest division in football. Again, its first 2 weeks. I'm not surprised. I just think it shows how, I even said this 4 years, or thought about this 4 years ago. So it was 4 years ago to the date yesterday for a lot of people because certain time zones. Josh Allen was playing Minnesota in 2018, his rookie year. He made that monstrous drive for the first down. That play already solidified, 2018, that the Buffalo Bills made the absolute 100% right decision by drafting Josh Allen. I'm not surprised the Tennessee Titans lost this game. But, man, I think it's rough. That was definitely a terrible game. The other Monday Night Football one, for some reason, I am blanking on it. Let me look that up real quick. But because it was a doubleheader, man. Honestly, what is the point of the doubleheader? But honestly, I'm gonna look that one up because honestly, dude, it's been a long week. I forget what day it is. But it was who played that second one?
It was Minnesota and in Philadelphia, and this was just an experiment. And they tried it last year, I believe, or the year before.
2020, yeah.
It just what makes it bad though is the next game, because this was the one I was really looking forward to, and I picked wrong, of course. I know it's 2 weeks, but it's funny how 1 week you could be the toast of the town, like the Vikings were, and the next week you're back to
who you really are.
Yeah, and what your reality is, and that's what the Vikings had. So Vikings came in at 1-0, the same thing with the Eagles in Philadelphia. Monday Night Spotlight, Jalen Hurts. I'm really advocate for him because I really want him to do well. All we heard is that, hey, he can't throw, he can run, but he can't throw well. I think this game, I'm going to keep saying, I know it's only the second week, but we saw strides last year of him. They made the playoffs, didn't they? And we've seen what he can really do. So With this second Monday night game, Eagles won 24-7. It was basically first half scoring. 7 in the first for Philadelphia. In the second quarter, they exploded, got 17. Minnesota countered with 7, but after that, it was just defensively. Darius Slay Jr., he did the job. Even when banged up, he made some plays, and it was awesome to see. But the Viking defense, they couldn't cover anybody. It was really awful. Slay with a couple of picks. Goddard had a solid game along with Devontae Smith. Watkins had a touchdown as well. And Justin Jefferson, I'm really amazed about the Eagles' defensive job on him and Thielen. That was awesome to see. Miles Sanders also had a good game. Hurts ran for a couple touchdowns. Dalvin Cook only had 17 yards on the ground, only 6 carries because they played from behind, so they didn't go with the rushing game. Cousins, real quickly, only threw for 221 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, and 2 sacks. But Jalen Hurts, 333 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He was sacked 3 times, but again, he's a running quarterback. So, my opinion, I thought this was a great game offensively and defensively, especially in the first half. But defensively, the Eagles were just awesome. And again, to stop Justin Jefferson the way they did, they must have had a game plan for just Jefferson, how to get to Kirk Cousins and make him throw when he's not ready. So what did you think about the Eagles' solid win on Monday night?
At some point, you have to acknowledge what Kirk Cousins is. I said this back in 2020. Kirk Cousins and Phillip Rivers are pretty much the same thing. The only difference is he has slightly more. They're pretty much almost the same quarterback. All Kirk Cousins is Phillip Rivers with less kids. And maybe a couple and lesser playoff experience. That's what he is. You can't change that. He's in his 30s. Yeah, drafted by from Michigan State, I believe, 4th round because of RG3, and it's been 10 years. Crazy story. But Kirk Cousins is not a franchise quarterback. This is the same team. Yes, then we know Tennessee drafted Malik Willis. It's only his first year. Remember, they drafted Kellen Mond out of A&M last year in the 3rd round. He's the 2nd or 3rd stringer for the Cleveland Browns right now. Probably won't finish the season with the Cleveland Browns. So you don't have a potential succession plan. Diggs nearly would have had 4 or 5 interceptions in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Darius Slay. I apologize. I'm taking it. Darius Slay, not great pickup though for Philadelphia. He had at least 2 picks in the end zone, or one of them would have been picked off. It was towards 25 or 30 yards, closer to the red zone, or to the end zone. But to me, this shows when a team believes in their quarterback and they actually put players around him that are going to help them. A.J. Brown used to have Dallas Goedert. Miles Sanders is finally starting to become a guy that you can trust. You have the running back by committee. You have Travis Kelce's brother that plays on the offensive line. Steve Peters is now in Dallas. They believe in Jalen Hurts. And they stuck to it despite what didn't happen in 2020 and what obviously did not happen in 2021. Well, you knew going to that playoff game against Tampa Bay, you're going to get decimated. You're going to get destroyed. Kirk Cousins is not a franchise quarterback. He is a fraud. All he is Phillip Rivers with less playoff experience and less child care bills. I'm sorry, that's what it is. There's not much of a difference. Yes, Phillip Rivers is higher drafted, so they're about the same. It's just a few more, and Phillip Rivers just more turns the ball over more. He's injured more, but he plays through it a lot. So ACL, all of that. it just shows to me that the Philadelphia Eagles, like I'm not gonna say, oh, it's just week 2, and I'm 100% sold on Jalen Hurts, but so far, I'm happy I'm wrong because I know there's some people in the media that are like, oh, I want this guy to fail. I want this guy to fail. I hope I'm wrong. So far in the first 2 weeks, I've been wrong, but it's not just all Jalen Hurts. It's not throw this delirious thing out there like some people would with the Bucks win against the Saints last week. That defense is for real. They're building for the future, even outside of whenever Fletcher Cox does retire. I don't know when that's ever going to happen. But they have a really good team. I'm telling you that trading for the A.J. Brown was an absolute game changer. You traded your receiver you drafted in 2020 to the Minnesota Vikings, ironically, right? And Jalen Reagor is clearly softer than tissue paper because not a lot of people can comment on Instagram. He can't really see messages, any of that. And I'm like, really? And clearly Diggs maybe doesn't have a valid point against his brother Stephon. Because you said you can guard him? Really? That Minnesota team that sacked Kirk Cousins 2 or 3 times last week. What happened this week, Jalen Hurts? How many points did the Eagles have? This already shows me in the first 2 weeks, even before this Dak Prescott injury, Jalen Hurts is a more interesting and a more talented quarterback than Dak. Because at least you know with the Eagles, at least in the first 2 weeks, not let's say the whole season, with the weapons he has, he can do a lot in the passing game and running game. But you're not going to have it like what Lamar Jackson had early on in his career when he was averaging 18, 19 carries a game. That was super deadly his rookie year, or second year in the league in 2019. That was not good. But won MVP. So I'm happy for Jalen Hurts. Like I said, I was not an advocate for him because you were 3-5 against teams that had less than 5 or less wins on the season. Your last season college football, or one of your seasons, last season college football, you played at OU. But so far, I'm happy to root on. I'm happy for the Eagles here. But honestly, man, my pick is wrong. Before the season started, I picked the Cowboys, and I had to stick by it because I can't just switch up. But I'm 100% wrong. Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the Nfc East, and if they keep this up with this team, with this defense, with their receiving core, he could be a top 10 quarterback by the end of the season.
That would be something. So, John, you were 10-6. I was 7-9.
Just like Seattle in 2007. Sorry.
Yeah. 2010, that divisional winning Seahawks team. So there were 3 crazy finishes that just drilled me, basically, and I didn't believe in Detroit. I just couldn't believe that week 2, some of the 3 finishes. I mean, the way the Browns gave up all those points, with 2:02 to go. Got to get the onside kick. You have Amari Cooper in there, who we talked about earlier, couldn't get his hands on it. The Raiders, how they gave up their game. How the Baltimore defense basically let Lamar Jackson down. It's amazing to see what week 3 will bring. But again, you were 10-6, I was 7-9, and I'll add up the scores next week as we go to week 3 now. Let's run through these picks. Now, the Houston Texans, they're on Sunday, the early games, go to Chicago. Houston 0-1-1-1. 0-1-1. The Bears are 1-1. The way this game goes, and it's not a very popular one, I would love to see Chicago run the ball more. They found success with Montgomery, then they stopped running against Green Bay because they got behind. But I think if they establish the run a little bit more, if Justin Fields, runs and passes well, they should easily win this game. Davis Mills is struggling with Houston right now. And we'll see if a quarterback change happens. I do have to mark this game as well because it's Lovie Smith coming back to face his old team that he coached back in the day, the Bears. So I think that's a cool little nugget there. I think the Bears will win this. It'll be a very ugly game, in my opinion. Probably like 13-7 or something like that. Chicago. What do you think about Houston at Chicago?
Honestly, dude, Chicago's going to score over 25 points. I think, here's the thing, like, even though they were down against Green Bay, they were still running the football, and they had a chance to come back. We're not going to talk about that play. Was it a first down? That's old news. But they were still running football with Herbert and Montgomery really well. They kept it going. Obviously, towards it didn't work out, and you had those last couple of yards. It looked like not much of a close game. But I think when you look at Chicago, obviously we talked about before the show, you should have traded for Mark Cooper. It's Houston. Like, they have another head coach. I don't think it matters who you put in with the Texans. It's another puppet for the Houston Texans organization. I'm going to keep going to not going for it on fourth down and overtime because that, I think, is good. If that's your mentality in week 1, what about in week 2 or week 3, week 15, week 17, week 18? The Chicago Bears have a much better defense. They have young corners. I know I'm not saying they're great, but they're young, so there's still opportunity there for improvement. Look at the cornerbacks for the Texans. There really isn't much there. You look at their defensive line, outside the guys that retired. I don't know what happened to those guys. One's in Arizona. Justin Fields is the franchise quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Like you said, once they get that running game going early on, it opens the passing game. Justin Fields gets that confidence. He gets that swag. I understand it was just week 1. It was in San Francisco in the rain. I get that. But once you saw that confidence and that one play opens up, Chicago's good to go. Like, Davis Mills is struggling. He's not the guy moving forward. You have a head coach as your puppet. Potential situations that happened with the Houston Texans this offseason or the previous off seasons, plural, with everything there with Deshaun Watson. But I think Justin Fields obviously is a better quarterback than Davis Mills. We know he can do it with his legs. We know he can do it with his arm. We saw it against Alabama in that game. Yes, it didn't win, but that throw was amazing. He's done it partly in the NFL. I know I'm hoping in this week 3 game, not just against the Houston Texans, but games moving forward, it is not the situation where, let's wait. We're going to wait till next year. Once we spend this money, then we're going to be good. Focus on getting good and being better now. But I think with the running game, who do the Texans have? Marlon Mack didn't make the team. That was your best guy. Guy just was a bust. I'm sorry. Like, injuries happen. You can't control that. But that doesn't mean you're not a bust. Look at Rashard Penny. My gosh. They have a better Montgomery and Herbert, Fields. You have your defense. What else do you have? Like, I believe I could be wrong because I haven't heard any news. The only team in the NFC North I don't necessarily have much stronger whatsoever. Packers, Rodgers. There's always something there. Minnesota. When are you going to move on from Kirk Cousins? You got destroyed by Buffalo. The Lions, there really isn't anything there, obviously, too. But I think Chicago will win that game very easily. But I think in the first half, it's definitely going to be a struggle. But I'm telling you, in this game, I could be wrong. And late in the third quarter, you're going to see Montgomery I think it's Herbert or Herbert. I can't remember his name.
Herbert.
Herbert is going to make a big run down the field on second and third down, and it's going to free up the rest of the game for the Chicago Bears. I'm terrible at scoring. Obviously, not scoring, but like score predictions. I would say 25-10. I just don't see this is the most conservative offense in the National Football League. And the only team, the Jets are right now are better than you. The Lions are better than you. The Jaguars are better than you. You're not even better than Tennessee, and they played terrible last week. If you're the worst team in your division, Chicago has an up-and-coming quarterback. Well, the Texans, you don't know who your up-and-coming quarterback is. I think Chicago will win this game 25-10.
All right, the next game we've got is both 0-2, the Raiders and the tight ends from Tennessee. Both lost in embarrassing fashions. One took longer than the other. I think the Raiders, for me, they got to get past what happened and just try to win here. Tennessee, of course, with their last home game, they lost to the Giants, and they didn't fare well against Buffalo. I think the Raiders win this game, but it's never going to be easy. Nothing ever is, of course, but just the way that they find ways to lose is just very odd. What they need to do is establish the run first and foremost to that tight end defense, and then get everyone involved. Hunter Renfrow seems to be a game time decision. He had the concussion on that fumble, the last play of the game. We'll see if he plays even. That means more reliability on Devontae Adams and more, eyes on him if you're Tennessee's defense. Tennessee, it kind of feels like Ryan Tannehill's last stand. If he doesn't do well this game, well, maybe they're going to have to flip-flop quarterbacks. And both aren't really good or ready if you're, the other guy, Wills. So I think the Raiders win. It's going to be a close affair, probably an ugly score, like 16-13 or 13-10, unless Devontae and Carr hooks up a lot like they did week 1. So I got the Raiders. What do you think about the Raiders in Tennessee?
Devontae Adams is going to be a game MVP. Devontae Adams is going to have 150 yards and 2 to 3 touchdowns. And I say this why. Look at week 2 against the Eagles, where y'all are playing. Who is it? I don't know why I'm blanking.
Cardinals?
Who y'all are playing?
Raiders played the Cardinals last week.
No, who are they playing this week?
Oh, the Raiders playing Tennessee.
I don't know. If last week is an indication against Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills in the 4th quarter rested their starters. If that is any indication, let me look this up just for proof. I don't want it to be fake news. I don't want it to be that this is all published against me. Let me look this up. Let me look at Josh Allen's stats, because this is going to prove my point for this week. 128 quarterback rating. Really a perfect quarterback. 317 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns and 7 touchdowns and 2 picks to start the season. Destroyed LA, destroyed Tennessee, who the Rams just won the Super Bowl. If week 2 is an indication of how they played against Buffalo, where that Buffalo is a Super Bowl contender versus the Raiders, where they have the potential to be that team. Keyword, I don't know if anything can happen. If Mitchell Trubisky is your starting quarterback in the 4th quarter for Buffalo, Devontae Adams is going to go off. I mean, think about it. I want to make sure I say these stats correctly. Stephon Diggs. Let's just see the type of day he had. Stephon Diggs, 12 receptions for 148 yards. Not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. If that's an indication of how the Raiders are going to completely just destroy Tennessee, I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to be like a 30-3 type of game. No, that's delusional. But Tennessee is on their last leg. This started really even the years before when Tennessee was playing New England years ago. Kevin Byard's like, yeah, we're going to destroy Brady. We're going to destroy Brady. Look what happened in that game. I'm sorry, but if you left Stephon Diggs to only play 3 quarters because he had 3 touchdowns and his fantasy team had over 15, 20 points, Devontae Adams is going to have the same type of game. Stephon Diggs had 12 receptions. He averaged over 12 yards a catch. If Stephon Diggs can do that, and the defense had so much miscommunication week 2 that it's somehow automatically gonna change against Vegas, against the Raiders. Not gonna happen. Devontae Adams is gonna have he's gonna have almost 16 receptions, 150 yards, and 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like, I'm that confident in the Carr and Adams connection more than I am disconfident or unconfident against the Tennessee Tech. Dude, look at the Bills game. Like, you think that's magically going to change? They're going to learn their lesson on everything? No. Raiders are going to win this game.
I hope you're right. Kansas City, who's 2-0 and, hasn't missed a beat. They've been playing like the last 4 or 5 years. Taking on the Colts in Indianapolis. The Colts, their home opener, they are 0-1-1. The Colts just look bad. Frank Wright on the hot seat. This game can get really ugly fast. And I know this was probably one of maybe the marquee games, but not now. This ain't going to be a good one. Kansas City, I think, will run circles around them. It might be a carbon copy of the opening day game in Arizona for the Cardinals, whereas just you knew it was over by the first quarter, first half. I know the Chiefs will win probably, maybe they'll take it easy on the Colts, maybe 38-17, some late touchdowns by Matt Ryan just for fantasy implications, but whoever has Matt Ryan out there. It would be nice, though, to see Jonathan Taylor have a great game against that Kansas City defense, who's they're better. Well, we'll see if they're better over the year, but Carlos Dunlap in there doing well. I know they're a little banged up, but I would like to see that matchup with Jonathan Taylor. We know Matt Ryan, he's going to try to force the ball into some Colts receivers and tight ends, but I want to see Taylor have a great game for the Colts. They're not going to win, of course, but I got Kansas City. So what do you think Kansas City at Indy?
I am older than the amount of total points the Colts have this season. In the first 2 games, the Colts have only scored 20 points. They scored nothing last week against Jacksonville. Jacksonville last week had more points than the Colts have had all season in the first 2 weeks. Think about that. Just in the first 2 weeks, that's insane. The problem is the failed execution of the offensive game plan. I'm looking at last week. Jonathan Taylor had only 9 attempts. The previous week against another AFC South opponent in the Houston Texans, he had 31 attempts, 161 yards, averaged over 5 yards a carry, and a touchdown with 4 receptions. How do you go against the Texans going from 31 carries to decreasing your production by over 85%? From anyone that watches football at any standpoint, even if you do or don't do fantasy, how does that make sense? You play back-to-back weeks against divisional opponents, and you have 9 attempts against Jacksonville? Tell me how that makes sense. How do you go from 31 attempts, 161 yards, and a touchdown to, against the Jaguars, 9 attempts, 54 yards, and no touchdowns? How does that make sense? So I think this game, even if Jonathan Taylor got 10 to 15 plus carries, it's not going to matter because not only do the Chiefs have their running back by committee, people thought they were going to fall because of Tyreek Hill. I did not, because I could see greatness in a quarterback. I'm not saying like I'm the quarterback whisperer, but in terms of I know how good a guy can be without a certain player. Because they may play a little bit more conservative. They'll have some deep balls downhill to Travis Kelce. It may take them 4, 5, 10 minutes to get down the field, which also can benefit the Kansas City Chiefs because it tires the defense. And it may help when you're playing your opponent because it can maybe change the offensive game plan where, let's say, the Chiefs are playing the Colts this week and they're taking 5 or 10 minutes. And the coach is like, hey, we're going to do this play on offense. We're going to do this play on defense. But then the Chiefs take 5 or 10 minutes. Then they have to change it up. The Chiefs are in this hurry up offense. It changes a lot. The Colts are not winning this game. They're going to be the same thing as last year and start 0-3. I'll say 30. I'll be wrong. I'll say 28. I'm just going to say this as a joke. 28-3.
It could happen. You never know. Now, I hope I don't jinx it. But Buffalo at Miami. This game just seems to drip with so much intrigue. Both are 2-0. You know, Miami's coming off the improbable win in Baltimore. Buffalo's coming off the absolute mauling of the Tennessee Titans on Monday. It's one of those early matchups where you hope Tua just continues to be brilliant. But going against Buffalo and you add Von Miller to that defense, the only issue is I think it was Micah Hyde
He's out.
Yeah, he's out for the rest of the season, I'm guessing, because he got carted off.
That was crazy, though.
Yeah. And you just wish that didn't happen because he's a big part of that secondary. And I wonder how much Hill and Waddle will get into that. I hope we have a dandy. I mean, we deserve one because I thought Minnesota-Philadelphia was going to be that dandy of a ball game, and it wasn't. With Buffalo and Miami, God willing, it's a thriller. Hopefully it's like 38-35, something like that. But overall, I think Buffalo has the better team. But you see Miami is right there. They're right there. I think Buffalo wins, but it'll be really close. I'm going to say 38-35 Buffalo in hopes that it's just the game of the year. What do you think about Buffalo at Miami?
My fellow Americans, the people that are going to be watching this show, I'm picking the Dolphins, and here's why.
Who?
Dane Jackson, Michael Hyde, Jordan Phillips, and Ed Oliver are out against the Miami Dolphins. And what you saw last week against the Baltimore Ravens with a depleted defensive line is Tyreek Hill getting deep. And even then, like I said, Tua, because I can't say his last name. I always mispronounce it. It sounds like I'm about to have mouth farts or burps. You can go 5 or 10 yards to Tyreek. Or you're going to see deep passes. When your safety is out, when one of your star defensive tackles is out, one of your star defensive ends is out, that's going to free up Waddle and Hill wide open. Outside of Tre'Davious White, he's a phenomenal player. But just like Jamal Adams to a certain extent in Seattle, one guy down the field can only cover so much. He may try to cover the run. He may try to cover Waddle or Hill. But again, that still frees up Mike Gesicki, who had a touchdown last week. That's got to free up Waddle or Tyreek Hill. With Michael Hyde, Jordan Phillips, and I know, like, if they weren't out, I would say the opposite. But that's going to free up a lot of deep passes. And I'm telling you, I'm not a fantasy football expert, but I will tell you this: if you're seeing this game and you have Tua as your starter, if you have Tua on your roster, I would consider starting Tua in your fantasy football lineup because of one reason, or technically 4 reasons. Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips, Michael Hyde, and Dane Jackson are not playing. If your main guys, okay, you got Tre'Davious White in the backfield. I'm talking about just the backfield, not necessarily the defensive line in the front. That's going to free up Tyreek Hill to have 2 to 3 touchdowns. That's going to free up Waddle. Let's say you double coverage both those guys. What about Gesicki? What about the run? What about Tua going downfield with his legs? He's very mobile. So I'm picking Miami because of that very reason.
Dude, not going to lie. My brother asked me, I think on Tuesday night while I was at work, he was like, hey, who should I start, Burrow or Tua for this week? And I'm like, well, Burrow's going to break out eventually if he gets protected. Tua, I didn't know about the injuries to Buffalo's defense. Well, you just gave me that advice to give him, so I just text him right now.
You would usually be right. Obviously, I would still pick Burrow over it because, yes, they still have your core defensive end guys for Buffalo. Unlike with the Jets, they don't really have any interior defensive line players that are elite.
That's the thing.
So I think with Jamar Chase down, they don't have guys down the field for Burrow. Yes, they're going to win this game, but yes, they have the better interior defensive line for Buffalo, which is why I think starting Joe Burrow would be the better choice if you're doing fantasy football.
Damn. Well, whatever he wants to do.
I shocked the world. I know. I picked Tua, but I'm sorry. It's not because I believe in Tua just yet. But with those injuries, I just don't see how this is going to be like a 45-42. But again, with the past 2 weeks, honestly, who knows?
Yeah, I hope for a good one. I think we all do. We have an NFC North matchup. Detroit at Minnesota, both 1-1. Detroit coming off a high, Minnesota coming off a low. You would think this is a game Minnesota wakes up and says, okay, they're the Lions. We can beat them. But Detroit, they're roaring at the right time. They're feeling good. I wonder if there's something going on in the locker room with Cousins and the other receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They don't believe in him. They had the Week 1 win at home. Hopefully that the young defense of Minnesota can do great things. I know they still have Harrison Smith and Smith inside, Zarius Smith, but you could definitely see Detroit sneaking out of Minnesota with a win, but maybe not just yet. But it's one of those games you want Detroit, if they're on their path to being something very soon, you want them to win, But I'm going to go Minnesota just to be safe. I don't think Detroit's defense is, nimble enough to stop all these weapons. Jefferson, Thielen, when Cook is good, when Cousins can be good. So I'm going Minnesota, but probably only like 23-13. I think it's going to be one of those growing pain losses for Detroit, just to say, hey, we were close, but we're not good enough just yet. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go with Minnesota. What do you think about Detroit at Minnesota?
Folks, we have double jeopardy. I'm picking the Detroit Lions. You talk about Kirk Cousins in Detroit and everything else. I think last week mentally is going to destroy him to a certain extent because Kirk Cousins is 1-1 in the playoffs with Minnesota. No one straightly, screw PR on this response. There's no person that can genuinely tell me right now that the Minnesota Vikings actually, heart to heart, man to man, believe in Kirk Cousins as their starting quarterback. It's been 2018, 2019. I'm not saying everything's on him, but 2018, 2019, 4 seasons. You have 2 playoff appearances with Minnesota over Kirk Cousins. I'm literally looking to make sure I say this correctly. Kirk Cousins in the playoffs is, let's see, he's 4-3. 2 playoffs games with Washington. So he's what? So is this your guy? Like, I believe more in the Lions this season than I do in Minnesota because they have a bright future. Jared Goff is fighting for his career, not just necessarily in Detroit, but as a starting NFL quarterback. No, am I saying when we go look back at the season, week 17, week 18, is that going to be the case? I don't know. But I think the upside is higher with Detroit. Last week, Jeff Okudah, who has had an ACL, he's been very injury prone. He had a really decent week last week. He's starting to recover from his injury. He's starting to get better. Maybe towards like week 12, week 13, you're going to see like a key interception. I don't know. But I believe more in this Detroit Lions team in week 3 than I do in the week 3 team in Minnesota. Because I get Justin Jefferson and all those guys where it may be offensive game to a certain extent, unlike the Browns and Steelers game, which was absolutely insane. But I'm picking Detroit, man. I know I'm shocking everybody, but like a double jeopardy here. I know you can't do that in court, but we're doing it here on Punt Off, and you can punt off. People think otherwise, not so good of fun. But honestly, man, I'm picking Detroit. I think it'd be a good offensive game.
Okay, next game, Baltimore and New England in Foxborough. Baltimore, of course, coming off the crazy loss against Miami. New England, you can't really figure out. They were bad, the first week, beating Pittsburgh, who may not be good, And I totally forgot. Pittsburgh lost to Cleveland on the Thursday night recap. Cleveland just led the whole way there. They had a clutch running back play by, Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Great play by Jacoby Brissett, which we never thought would have happened. And then you have David Njoku. I thought, they should have got him the ball more often. And you saw what happened on Thursday. For me, Pittsburgh, it just seems like they're so. I know they're playing they have a long time off before they play the Jets, but it seems like, maybe after that game or during that game, they might go to Kenny Pickett. And I think I said week 4 they might, change quarterbacks. But yeah, with that game on Thursday, it was 29-17. Pittsburgh had a shot late but couldn't get an onside kick. Really good game, though, and that was unexpected. When you thought of Pittsburgh and Cleveland, you didn't think it was going to be a good game, but it was a good rebound for Cleveland. You have any thoughts about the Thursday night game that was?
I think Mike Tomlin knows exactly what he's doing, and this is where, like they say, if you really want to go this route, go in the dare program. Don't give it to peer pressure. Mike Tomlin knows exactly what he's doing. It's so easy to give into the pressure of, oh, you're 1-2 on the season. Mike, calm down. Even Mr. Trubisky, whatever, he still had 200 yards, didn't have a pick. We're just talking about that, but that's people who don't want to talk about that. I'm not saying he played great, but no turnovers. That's what matters. The Bengals lost this past week. The Ravens lost this past week. There's Browns, Bengals, Steelers, and Ravens. So most of those teams lost this past week. So what would there be reason to panic? I would look at the AFC North right now, but I think it's so easy for people like, oh, it's always easy to talk about the new quarterback, this and that. You're only one game away from first place right now. Why should the Steelers panic? Why are the fans panicking? The Bengals are only 2 games behind for first place, and they're 0-2. And they're both on pace to be sacked 100 times. But that's where some of these fans, I think they don't understand football. It's too – I understand if you have where it's like the Colts, where you scored no points last week. You've only scored 20 points in the season. You're 1-2. I can start to understand something. Something's not clicking. There's some malware, or you're still using AOL internet for your football decision making. But there's no reason to panic whatsoever. And I'm saying that even with my Bengals, I'm not panicking just yet. And we're 0-2, and we're pretty much the worst team in the league right now. Worse than the Jets, and I have no problem saying that. I believe my team, but they can rally us around. But this is where it separates the really great coaches from the guys that are pretending to be NFL coaches. It's easy for us to panic. I remember the other night, I'm like, dude, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I freaking out? I'm like, wait a minute. What do adults do? They find solutions. They do their research. Mike Tomlin's not going to freak out. He's going to do his research. We're only 1 game behind for first place. The Bengals lost. They're 0-2. The Ravens lost. The Browns, yeah, they beat you, but were they really a better team? Because I tried to tell people, man, with TJ Watt being out for potentially to week 5, week 6, who knows, that's going to free up the running game. What did Nick Chubb do in the first quarter? He ran for 20, 30 yards all the way to the 30-yard or something like that. He ran for had multiple carries in that game. Played really, I believe, had a touchdown or 2. So, why are we panicking about the Steelers going one. I say we like the fans or like this is why drives me nuts about certain sports media like in cities. It's like you're automatically trying. You're just trying to get a reaction. You're not asking a genuine question. You're already asking about starting Kenny Pickett. Well, is he ready? This is not the same thing as the San Francisco 49ers, where he has been familiar with the stadium. He's familiar with the workouts. He's been there for his whole season or college years at Pitt. So there's a familiarity there. Trey Lance, we don't know what's going to happen. He's injury prone. This is what separates the men from the boys from saying, Mommy, I need your help, versus, I got this. I'm going to find a solution. That's why Mike Tomlin has been there for such a long time. Remember, that season in 2018, that would be so easy to freak out. You have no Ben Roethlisberger. You don't have Mason Rudolph got hit in the head with the helmet. It's so easy to freak out. This is why Mike Tomlin's been there for so long. They're going to be just fine. Don't pull a Kardashian. You're going to be just fine.
By the way, Amari Cooper, 7 receptions, 101 yards, and 1 touchdown. Njoku with a touchdown. Nick Chubb, though, 113 yards and a trip to the house. Pickens had that one catch that was Odell-like. That was probably the main highlight for the Steelers, other from the Harris touchdown early. But again, Cleveland wins. They're 2-1. The Steelers go to 1-2. Anyway, let's go back to New England hosting Baltimore. Now, Baltimore, again, coming off that crazy loss. New England playing the Steelers and beat them handily. It seems like their defense held Pittsburgh in check. But now you have Baltimore trying to run around New England here. And, Andrews and Jackson are going to hook up. They'll be just fine. I think this game will come down to a Justin Tucker field goal. Probably 20-17. I'm going to go. No. I'm going 19-16 Baltimore defeats New England. What do you think about Baltimore at New England?
When you get 3 strikes in a row in bowling, it's called turkey. I'm picking Baltimore to win because even though New England won last week, they're the most boring offense in the league right now. If not outside the Bengals, which Joe Burrow keeps getting. I'd say the most basic, bland. It's like getting a turkey and ham and cheese sandwich. You get the provolone and the ham, and you put nothing on it. That's the Patriots offense right now, at least in this current situation. Who's your main receiver? Who did you draft in the first round? Who did you draft in the first round that's now in Chicago that's injury prone? This season is either going to determine, unless Robert Kraft is going to start turning into Jerry Jones here, keeping Bill Belichick after the 2022 season. One of your guys is going to be your main guy a couple years ago, and he's now in. Jared Stidham was going to be your guy, and obviously, thankfully, that didn't work out. Can't get the job, yada yada. I can't believe I'm saying this for the first time in my lifetime. The Patriots are one of the most boringest teams in the NFL. One of the worst teams in the league right now. You can say, "Oh, they won 17-14." Let's go back to their stats because I want to make sure I'm saying nothing but the truth. Because some people, like in that movie, you can't handle the truth, even when you played Pittsburgh last week. QBR rating under 90, $2.52, a touchdown and a pick. So this first 2 games, you're throwing an interception. I understand it's the first 2 weeks. You don't have the guys, also because your coach cannot freaking draft. Bro, 213 yards against Miami, and you were down 17-0. A touchdown and a pick again. The only thing that improved was you had 39 more passing yards and had a nearly 10 points less in your quarterback rating. The Patriots have one of the worst offense in the NFL one of the worst through the first 2 weeks. I think Baltimore's going to bounce back though, because even though they lost last week, Lamar Jackson still had a bunch of touchdowns. that rookie Bateman, I can't remember what his name was at that game. He played really well. The running game is still going to be a concern. For both teams, it's going to be kind of average. I think it'd be close, like you said, but honestly, man, I'm going to have to pick Baltimore. I just don't see what we're seeing with New England. They don't really have anything go. It's like having that, not even chicken sandwich or that piece of bread. Like, oh, that looks real good. It looks real good. We're good. That history is real good in New England. You turn around and there's nothing in there. That bag of chips looks bussin'. And I open it and there's like 2 chips. That's the New England Patriots and their offense right now. Thank you. That is seen.
The 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals go to New Jersey to face the 1-1 New York Jets. Jets coming off an improbable win against the other Ohio team in Cleveland. Cincinnati losing in heartbreak fashion against the Cowboys in Texas. This is a game I would expect the Bengals to go crazy on and just keep the pedal to the metal and win decisively. The thing is, the Jets, they're young, no doubt about it. Can that young defense get to Burrow? Will they keep letting the door open to get to Burrow? What is it? Collins? We'll see if he's able to play. That's a big key right there. I think Cincinnati wins, but hopefully in blowout fashion. I think that would really help things out. It would make things better. And I know you're going to, if they lose to the Jets, I know you're going to be crazy. I know that can't happen. Coming off a Super Bowl, then you would believe that Super Bowl hangover thing. Or, you go right after the owner, who is the GM as well, Mike Brown, and you'll say, well, you picked the wrong offensive line. Maybe I don't know if there's any Flacco magic left after last week. That would be interesting to see. But I think the Bengals will win maybe by 6, so maybe like 27-21, maybe in a close game. We'll see if the Jets can give a game here. So what do you think about Cincinnati at the Jets?
Honestly, screw Joe Flacco. He used to play in the AFC North, obviously, with that only Super Bowl Baltimore has had since Ray Lewis, and that guy played with a no-name quarterback. I mean that because he was terrible. Honestly, man, this should be an easy game, I think. But at the same time, you have to take last week into consideration against the Cleveland Browns. How do you that one was insane. The Browns in that game had a 99% chance to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
And what do the Browns do? They make a whole man to Wendy's Frosty, and they completely just crap the bed, and they lose. The onside kick had less than 5% chance to make it, and they still happened. Obviously, the whole city, New York, Buffalo, Jacksonville, every city, every county, every state line, every state in the United States, South Korea, everyone is going to pick the Bengals and truly knows. You're telling me. I understand last week. I give Joe Flacco and that team full credit. But guarantee both coaches that are playing this game, I'm not a fan of either. I'm not a fan of Zach Taylor, and I still am not to this day. I think you don't have the right offensive staff also. They're absolute travesty. How do you address the offensive line and still suck? And so, obviously, I won't be doing my huge yell right because my brother's here, but he'll be gone tomorrow. And love you, bro. But also, that means I can do my crazy rants. Pulling the Stephen A. Smith. But honestly, I'm picking my Bengals. That's not a shocker. But if you lose. What?
I am.
What? What? How in anyone's green earth would you lose against the Jets?
What? This is what Denver does.
I'm thinking about all these things, and it just we would have to have a second show just for that rant alone. James, you do a great job hosting. You would host it. We would just have one episode of that. Just me talking about my Bengals. Because at this point, I don't watch Undisputed very much because I have no respect for Skip Bayless as a broadcaster. Specifically as a broadcaster after all the Dallas Cowboys stuff. But I will say this. Shannon Starr said this well. If the Bengals keep this up, Joe Burrow's going to be another Andrew Luck. Joe Burrow is on pace to be sacked 100 flipping times. Are you kidding me? This is supposed to, I'm see if he's, I don't know, he said that name. 100 times. David Carr was sacked 72 times. That type of being sacked, I tell you, I'm great. Even if we won the Super Bowl last year, I can't say if, like, I'm not mad about it. Like, if you won it, then it would be, okay, we got a Super Bowl. Let's continue moving this forward and see if we can build this dynasty. But you have nothing to go off of last year because the playoffs, sack after sack after sack after sack after sack, and still beat your team. You still beat Tennessee. You still beat all those teams until you get to the Super Bowl. Honestly, man, I would be genuinely shocked if they did. Now, I would probably, the game is this Sunday. I'm off on Monday. I'm looking at my schedule. I will do a whole entire show. I will go and find some way to contact the Cincinnati Bengals. Because you could not genuinely tell me. How do you explain to me how you lose against the Jets? I can't tell you, Mouse Point. I can't tell you. How you thought I was pissed about the Cleveland Cavaliers earlier this year. You thought I was pissed about my Longhorns in that Tom Herman rant, which Isaiah was able to fill out 2 to 3 applications, job applications. So I was talking about how Tom Herman, towards the end of 2020 in December, how Tom Herman should have been fired. Thankfully, they listened to my advice alone. Obviously, that's not the case, but honestly, man, we'll have to see. But Joe Flacco's not outplaying Joe Burrow. But also, I don't want to downplay the Bengals' first 2 weeks. They've been one of the worst teams in the league, and the sack numbers do concern me because if the Jets in week 2 can go toe-to-toe, this game does make me nervous, not because the Jets are like the Jets or they're really good. I'm still genuinely concerned about that Bengals offensive line.
Okay, next game, an NFC East matchup. You got the 2-0 Eagles headed to Washington to play the 1-1 Commanders. Commanders, whatever. Carson Wentz, first week. Good first week. But the second week against Detroit looked awful. Philadelphia, again, Monday they look great. It looks like they're on their way. I think they're going to win this game pretty solidly. And I imagine they're going to have a lot of green come down to Washington and represent there at I hope it's called FedEx Field still. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
It's
The shipping got delayed. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty much a dump, man. That whole place is awful. The whole Commanders organization is awful, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother show. On the field, though, I think the Eagles will win this game by 10, probably 27-17. I think Philadelphia strong at all positions, all sides of the ball, even special teams, as we saw on Monday. Washington trying to bounce back from the loss in Detroit, but I just think without Chase Young, they're not as good, of course. It's kind of like the TJ Watt thing in a way. But I got Philadelphia. What do you think about Philadelphia at Washington?
I feel like, at least early on in the season, we're in the twilight zone. You and I are agreeing on multiple games. Honestly, man, it's the Eagles. I think we know. We'll maybe talk about this after the show. What's happening in the NBA and what's not happening with the Washington Commanders. Double standard there. We'll talk about that after the show. Honestly, man, I just think, what does Washington have to gain here? Ron Rivera's on the hot seat. Your defensive coordinator is on the hot seat because, and I mean only because, the lack of defensive play. You went 7-9 in 2020, and you went toe-to-toe with Tyler Heineke, like Chase Young says, and you nearly beat Brady. Obviously, it didn't happen, but you were that close. Imagine if you beat Brady, Ron Rivera's job would have been safe for the next 3 to 4 years or more. This team has, ever since the RG3 debacle, has not been the same. 10 years ago, James, I was a freshman in high school. Nearly going to be 10 years ago, this coming January. Washington won the division, went to the divisional round, was going to beat the Legion of Boom. Or they were trailing behind them, they were coming back in that game. I just don't see, with all that's been going on with them this past season and how Mahomes' brother was disrespecting the legacy of Sean Taylor, and honestly, I think with one of the running backs who was in the hospital, got shot, and it just immediately was coming back like that. I give him full props for that. And I wish him the best and hope it comes back soon. Like there's no chemistry with this team. Like I'm not saying anything about them like being brothers and getting along. You talk about it with look at the Steelers. Like how long Mike Tomlin, like he buying them these shoes, are all having a good time. They're teasing AB. Mike Tomlin's doing that AB dance that AB was doing at one of his shows. I found that to be hilarious. That's a team that comes together. Like what do they have to gain off of? You lost against, was it Jacksonville or I can't remember. You barely beat Jacksonville, or then you lost again that next very week against Detroit. I think it's Detroit or someone. This team has no leader. This team has no factor over the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts is already the best quarterback in the Nfc East. I know that will trigger Skip Bayless, but I mean, I guess I'm a gun because I'm triggering people. But honestly, dude, it's really not going to be that type of say. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. But is Carson Wentz as mobile and as diverse as Jalen Hurts quarterback? No. There's a reason why the Eagles drafted him, even though I was like, dude, this is absolutely insane. Man, this third and fourth year are going to matter because there's no fifth-year option for Jalen Hurts. So in 2024, it's going to be a big year. But right now in this game, I'm picking the Eagles. I don't think that really shocks anybody.
You know, I forgot to mention it. Wentz is trying to, beat his old team. Mm-hmm. And maybe he'll ball out just a bit, but I don't think it'll be enough. Next game is the NFC South. I know everybody's running to the TVs to watch this game. New Orleans at Carolina. The fall of Baker Mayfield. I know it's only 2 weeks, but it's happening. The Saints, coming off now they're 1-1. Carolina's 0-2. Saints coming off the loss to the Bucs, mainly their defense. Carolina just not looking too good. They had a chance to come back against the Giants and blew it. Just bad penalties at the worst times, especially on the last drive by the Giants. Secured them a victory. Anyway, just on talent alone, New Orleans should win this game. It could be a crazy scenario. Christian McCaffrey's back on the not IR, but on the injury report. So yeah, but we'll see if he plays. Kamara. I expect though Michael Thomas to have a big game. If Winston doesn't throw it to the other team, that's the only thing. I'm probably gonna go New Orleans. It won't be pretty, of course. It'll probably be 17-13 New Orleans. What do you think about this game?
James, you're sitting down, right?
Yeah.
You have emergency contact, right?
I can think of one.
Okay. Obviously outside of the one for everybody. Whatever that, I don't know the number for that one. I lost that number. I'm picking the Panthers. because Jameis Winston and Alvin Kamara has rib injury. Both Jameis Winston and Alvin Kamara are questionable. And so I think with them being questionable, and if they don't play, even if they're playing hurt, and if they're playing hurt, they're not winning this game. And it's going to be an ugly game. It could be. I'm not saying it's not going to be like a Browns and Steelers game. I just think with the injuries at the quarterback position and at the running back position, Mark Ingram wasn't enough for them last week. You saw that early on when Alvin Kamara came into the league. Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram worked really well together. But I think with the injuries to Winston and his back and ankle, that's really going to matter. Because that throwing motion going like boom, popping over here, going over here, that's going to matter. That's going to affect his decision making. He's obviously not going to have an ESPN 30 for 30 special part 2, but you can watch that one. That's the 2019 NFL season. That's funny. But I'm picking the Panthers. I think it'd be a close game. Like I said, like we know the division's locked and loaded with the Bucs winning it. But honestly, like I don't think Baker is going to play well in this game. I think it'd be close. But honestly, I'm picking the Panthers just because with Jameis Winston hurt, even if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. I mean, you lose last week. Again, you were healthy, and that's how you played against a Bucs defense. You can't be a top premier defense in the league. Then how are you supposed to beat a team who hasn't had a franchise quarterback since Cam Newton got drafted in 2011?
Okay, next game, both teams are 1-1. Jacksonville at the Chargers in Southern California. Now, the only injury in Jacksonville I'm seeing is Shaquille Griffin. He's questionable. But the Chargers, they have so many different players that are questionable. Darnold Parham, he's their tight end. Not the second tight end there. But Justin Herbert, the quarterback, Keenan Allen, the center Corey Lindsey, J.C. Jackson. They're all questionable. J.C. Jackson now is doubtful, and I don't think he'll play this week. But it's an interesting thing because the Jags, we saw they play their best against the Colts in Jacksonville. They don't do particularly well traveling to the West Coast. We've seen that before. But Justin Herbert being questionable with the rib injury, if he does play, you know that defense is going to go right after his ribs. You just know it. I mean, it would be smart of them, too. Not saying you're trying to go out and deliberately try to hurt someone, but to limit somebody's offensive weapons, I think that would be key. We'll have to see about Herbert, but you would think if he plays, it won't be much of a doubt that the Chargers will win. But the way the Jags are playing right now, they're in every game, and they lost barely to Washington, drilled the Colts. You know, Chargers had a lot of time off. They had last Thursday, they played Kansas City and lost. It's all on Justin Herbert if he plays. We know about Keenan Allen. We'll see if he plays, but he has the hamstring issue. I'm going to go Chargers, but I think it's going to be a really close game. I think probably 23-20 Chargers. What do you think about Jacksonville at the Chargers?
I'm picking the Jaguars because I think not just because of the injury and the rib injury, I think you threw a pick six, you cost your team the game. I think that is going to affect a little bit in the red zone or how they approach it. Like you're going to be a lot more cautious in the red zone now because look, you're so close to scoring, potentially winning this game. And then what I did last time, I threw the pick six and cost us the game. Was it the only reason? No, but in that moment, that cost you the game. And so I think at that point, I just think with how the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing, I mean, coach-wise, experience-wise, obviously you picked Doug Peterson, won the Super Bowl. I just think with, like I say, the Keenan Allen being out and those guys being out, I just don't know. It's not that I don't believe in Herbert. I just don't without potentially Allen. Maybe your second receiver can really ball out. But I'm gonna pick a close one here for Jacksonville. But honestly, with their defensive players, Griffith being out, he's not really a factor. He's not really a good player. Like I don't. But that's just one injury. They don't have a significant injury like the Chargers do. And I think yes, he'll suck it up and he'll play, no doubt. But I think later on that's really going to affect his game. He's not going to have a Kirk Cousins in Buffalo game or a Ryan Tannehill type game where he has like 3 or 4 interceptions and like he looks like he shouldn't be in the Canadian or AFL football league. But honestly, man, I had to bet the Jaguars in this game.
And hey, the Jaguars are no cakewalk now. At least they're not playing like it for the Chargers to underestimate them. The LA Rams go to Arizona. Both are 1-1. LA won pretty well. They let the Falcons back in after leading 28-3. Escaped with the win, 28-3. That sounded familiar to Atlanta fans. Arizona pulled off an improbable win in Las Vegas. Right now, I'm looking at the injury report. Kobe Durant, one of the rookie corners for LA, will be out. Brian Allen is the center. He'll be out. Van Jefferson will be out for the Rams. And then Jordan Fuller, the safety, is questionable. So that's some key players there for the Rams who are out. James Conner is questionable. Ronnie Moore is out for Arizona. Now, will we see, like you sent me in the chat, will you see Kyler Murray running around like a little kid?
Kyler, like taking his parents' phone. It was so funny. 20 seconds. Oh my god. Mommy, look what I found. That's not a chicken finger. That's a.
To me, it feels like LA should be favored, and Casey King, the resident Ram fan, will be going there as he lives in Arizona. I feel like the Rams will win, but it's only going to be by maybe 5 or something like that, or 6, maybe like 27-21. I would say. I think Murray's going to make some plays. If Connor is available, that's only going to help things. Zach Ertz and Murray look really good together. And the Rams, it's all about Stafford. He threw 3 picks the first game, 2 the second. And I wonder if he'll throw 1 this game. So if he limits his interceptions, if they can protect him, Cooper Kupp, that's the money man. The Rams should win this game. And then hopefully get Cam Akers going running with Darrell Henderson. Hopefully that will be the key too, because everybody's expecting them to pass all the time. So I got the Rams over the Cardinals. What do you think about this NFC West matchup here?
James, your headphones are working, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make this very clear. The Cardinals are not losing this game. And I say not because I think they're the better team overall come the playoffs, but they're a first half season type of team. And we're only in week 3. 2020, you were 6-2. 2021, you were a couple of games ahead of the Rams, and that may potentially kind of happen in the first couple of weeks and the Rams take over, which I believe will happen. I believe the Rams will still win the division, despite what Jimmy Garoppolo did last week. But honestly, man, I have to pick Arizona. I think last week with that huge confidence win, I'm sorry to bring that up, but that win in overtime was insane. And so I think bring that into this. You know what Kyler is about. He has his contract. I know Call of Duty comes out in barely a month, Kyler, so please focus. Hey, I'm probably going to get that game. It looks good. But the point is, I'm picking Arizona. Obviously, I think the Rams are the much better team. But I think they're a first quarter type of team. Like, they're going to play really well. And then week 12, week 13, you're going to start to see this dip.
Next game, John, be ready for this. I know you're going to be at the edge of your seat watching this game. Battle of the Birds up in Seattle. You got the Falcons and Seahawks. Atlanta 0-2, Seattle 1-1. Seattle coming off the loss after winning their Super Bowl. Seattle losing a divisional game up in Santa Clara against the Niners. Atlanta almost made the comeback against the Rams. This game won't be pretty, of course. You got Mariota, as quarterback there, Geno Smith for Seattle. This would be a good time for both teams to just lay down their weapons. No, just maybe get Kyle Pitts more involved if you're the Falcons. If you're Seattle, man, you just try to get Metcalf and Lockett the ball, and you just keep feeding them. That's all you can do. I think Seattle wins this, but only by, 1 or 2 or 3 points. Probably, 13-10. I'm going to go Seattle. But it's one of those games you're not going to really keep an eye on. You're just going to see the score later pretty much. What do you think about Atlanta and Seattle?
Is this the Falcons Super Bowl week 3 like it was Seattle's Super Bowl week 1? I'm not just saying it as just a joke, but I think we know Mariota obviously is not a starter in this league. We know both teams don't have starters. We know Drake London is phenomenal. I think placement for Julio Jones and Kyle Pitts those are really good players. Keep it Cordell Patterson. People don't forget how really good Cordell Patterson is because he's not. You talk about Derrick Henry and guys like that. Cordell Patterson is not a running back. He's like what Debo is, but in multiple positions. He's a triple, quadruple threat player. I just think they have the better weapons. You have the better quarterback. I'm sorry, I'm not saying like it's a huge leap, but Mariota's more mobile. He's going to have a touchdown or 2 in this game. He may have an interception. It may not be like the craziest week where, oh my gosh, look at Mariota. His first game is rookie year. 2016 or 2015. But honestly, I'm picking the Falcons to win this because at some point in this game, Geno Smith is going to be Geno Smith. He's going to get hit in the jaw or throw an interception. Drew Lock is going to come in and say, yo, G's in this, and it's a terrible rap, and he's going to play terrible, and they're going to keep switching out. But honestly, I'm picking the Falcons to win this game. I think when you look at Mariota is going to have, I say a bounce back game, but what I mean by that is not a 20-25, 324 yards at 5 or 6 touchdowns. It's going to be, maybe a touchdown to pick, but it's gonna get the ball down the field. But I picked the Falcons to win this game. I just think that it's a great win in week 1. I'll give them full credit, but I know honestly, man, Geno Smith is 32, 33 years old. He's been on 3 different teams. We know exactly who Geno Smith is.
Okay, so we got the Battle of the Bays, Green Bay and Tampa Bay in Florida. Green Bay never plays well in Florida, by the way. Remember last year, I think their first 2 games, they had to play because of a hurricane. They had to play the Saints in Jacksonville. Green Bay lost. They played Tampa Bay, and they got killed that game. So they never do well. And shout out to Tom Grossi. He's the one that does the pack casts. He streams all the games on YouTube. He's a really great content creator there. Green Bay 1-1, Tampa Bay 2-0. Both coming off decisive wins. Now the injury list for this game for both teams is pretty long, but Sammy Watkins being out is huge. Mercedes Lewis questionable. Randall Cobb, Christian Watson is both questionable. And then David, I'm going to blow this name, but Bakhtiari, it seems like he's supposed to be back already, but he still isn't. I'm wondering when he'll play again. For the Buccaneers, though, Russell Gage is questionable. Akeem Hicks is out. Julio Jones is questionable. Rashad Perriman is questionable. Fournette is questionable. And then Chris Godwin is out. So you have a good list here of names that are, that are maybe going to be out. And, I think that's going to be key. I think the Buccaneers do win this game. Calls are going to go Brady's way.
I was just going to say,
Yeah. With Rodgers, though, it seems like on the road, especially in Florida, like we mentioned, it seems like he'll have one shining moment, but the rest of the games are just not as good. Rest of the game is not good for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go Tampa Bay by at least 6. I'll probably go... No, I'm going 10. I'm going Green... Well, I'm going to go 6. I think Green Bay's running game keeps them in the game, but they're going to have a good balance between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So look for Green Bay's running game. If it's a factor, keep it close. But I'm going to say Tampa Bay wins. Let's go 24-20. I'm going to say there. What do you think about Green Bay at Tampa Bay?
2 things.
Thomas Brady, Edward Patrick Jr.
Bucks win this game. Thank you. Next one.
The Sunday night game, which is sort of intriguing. We have San Francisco at Denver. You have, Jimmy G coming back into the spotlight. Everybody loves him all of a sudden in Santa Clara with the 49ers there. And then Mr. Unlimited with Russell Wilson. Not really any names, come out with the 49ers. George Kittle, I think, will be back along with Trent Williams. Broncos injury list, Darius Phillips is out. We wonder about PS2, Patrick Surtain. He's questionable along with Jerry Jeudy. But, everybody else should be ready to go who's notable. It feels like a game that the Niners should win. I know it's in Denver. They know Russell Wilson. They know how to get to Russell Wilson. They've seen this before. It's just the jersey color has changed. Let's say we're navy blue, but they'll probably wear orange. Anyway, I would think the Niners win this game. I think they're on a good. They have a good thing with Deebo Samuel there. You throw in Ayuk. Defense for Denver, kind of shady. We've seen this year so far. And if you don't have PS2 out there, I think that really hurts them. So I'm going to go with San Francisco, but I think it'll be a real, drag them out game. I'm going to probably go 23-20 San Francisco and Denver. What do you think, John?
Yes, folks, I only had this graph on here because I was talking to my brother about switching from Apple to Samsung. Honestly, man, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to outplay Russell Wilson. We know what Jimmy G is. We get the legacy and what they're of. But Russell Wilson is not a franchise quarterback. You're telling me, and the reason it's more criticized, you pay $250 million for a guy that does this.
Broncos country, let's ride.
You're riding all the way to the Hamptons when you probably missed the playoffs. 2 touchdowns and a pick. Is that worth $250 million? 66.5 quarterback rating. You barely freaking. I'm sorry, my brother's asleep. He has gave me 3 sleep. You barely beat Houston. Believe me, I wish I could have a much better rant on that. But with respect to my brother sleeping, you can't honestly tell me that you're convinced of Denver. Let's look at the Broncos score the first 2 weeks. You have a total of 33 points. Not bad. You only scored 16 against Seattle. And he scored 16 again against the Texans. You were about to lose again. Something is going on in the first 2 weeks for the Denver Broncos for something to go awry. Like, I don't know. Is it the miscommunication with the head coach to the quarterback? His poor offensive game plan? Clearly, it is not.
Broncos country, let's ride.
It is going to be the Denver Broncos losing this game. I just think defensive-wise, they're better. Not just because of the injuries, but I was a big fan of them drafting PS2, but now I know why they call him PS2 because he's playing like crap and he's not even on the field. Like he's just getting, and it's not his fault. Injuries happen. I get it. Wish him nothing but the best, but this guy can't stay healthy. I don't think he'll ever be the guy. Right, at least for this game. I just don't see, like, this is the weirdest thing, James. You pay a quarterback $260 million and you score 60 points in the first 2 weeks each game. So no, I picked the Niners to beat him. George Kittle should be playing this game. Better tight end. Third tight end for Denver is now in Seattle. Running game, defense, everything. I just don't see how the Broncos are going to win because you're seeing this same habit where guys from Green Bay that were in Green Bay or came from Green Bay to Green Bay, now they're leaving Green Bay, and they have piss poor offenses. And so Denver's going to lose, and no, it's not going to be Broncos country. Let's ride. Because you'll be going into Hamptons, you'll be going to need therapy, you'll be getting your chocolate and your Monster and be crying because you're going to get destroyed. You're going to get beat. You might as well get the Band-Aids, call the EMS. You're going to get beat. You're going to get destroyed on the field. And I just don't see Denver winning this game. Like Denver hasn't shown me anything in the first 2 weeks to show me that they are a team that's improving.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. The Monday night game, NFC East matchup here is Dallas at the Giants in New Jersey. Both teams don't have their game status yet because it's on Monday here. As you're seeing this probably on Saturday, folks. We know Dalton Schultz got banged up in the last game against Cincinnati. Micah Parsons didn't participate fully in practice. Javon Kearse didn't either. Michael Gallup, I really want to see him break out. I know they've had Brown break out, the rookie receiver, lead the Cowboys in yards and receptions so far this season. Really surprised, with CeeDee Lamb. Maybe everybody is, targeting him on defense. But with the Giants and Brian DeBoer, you could definitely see him and his new mentality. He gets really mad when Jones throws a pick, when he makes a bad decision. And the cameras are going to be all over that. But it's good. It's good to have accountability back with the Giants, It's good to have someone out there that looks like they really care about what's going on. I know Joe Judge preached about that, but no one really took him seriously. Let's just get that, straight right now. What it would be so awesome. Let's just say if the Giants defeated the Cowboys, it would feel like a weight is off their shoulders. It feels like they can never beat the Cowboys, especially in New Jersey there. And they always play on Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, whatever. What a time if the Giants won and they're 3-0. That would be amazing. They would have to play the most perfect game that they can. Sterling Shepard would have to be awesome. Saquon Barkley would have to be great. Daniel Jones would not make those throws and not miss open, wide targets, as we saw. They had fans in the crowd I saw literally point out who's open and Jones didn't throw the ball. I've seen those videos. And if the fans can see it, but Daniel Jones can't, that's pretty tough, especially in the red zone too.
And he tripped over his own foot in week 1. So
yeah, he still can't get over that. Saquon Barkley, it's great to see him back with the Giants. I think that's been a real help. But Brian DeBoer being great there. Michael Parsons is going to have to do a lot. I mean, he's going to have to chase over Jones, chase Barkley. It's going to be an interesting game. it should be an interesting game. Cooper Rush coming off the win. His confidence is at an all-time high right now. Only way that continues if you get Lamb the ball, if you don't let the Giants in, and you don't let them in the game. For me, I feel like this is the Giants' time. They don't want to get embarrassed like they always do on national television. For that, I'll say the Giants win. I think only by 1 or 2 points, probably, 26-24. No. It might be lower than that, actually. Maybe 17 or 16-14, I would say, something like that. But you go to see the Dallas kicker, Maller. He's come up clutch, as you know, John, unfortunately. But with the Cowboys being 1-1, Giants 2-0, I think Giants win this, but it's going to be a really close game. And I think this would be a big confidence booster if the Giants won. What do you think about the Monday night matchup, Dallas at the Giants?
Christian Wilson, I expected early Christmas or birthday gift in the mail. Dallas Cowboys for solely one reason, maybe two. Michael freaking Parsons. Diggs is going to play well. He's going to cover. Don't know if he'll get an interception, but when you look at the Giants, Daniel Jones has not played well. And like what you're saying, if the crowd is telling you he's open, he's going down, and Daniel Jones can't see that, absolutely the joke here. But Christian Wilson, I expect a gift in the mail. I'll tell you my address. I'll tell you the price, because I'll tell you, name that price. The Dallas Cowboys. I win both ways. Whether they win, my prediction was right. Whether they lose, how about them Cowboys? Either way, technically, it's a win-win for me. So just kind of in the dub there. Just give me that gift card, James. You've already lost. I'm just kidding. But no, this is week 2. But I picked the Cowboys win this game for sure.
All right. So, man, it's going to be an intriguing week. I know Miami-Buffalo, that's probably the game to really look at. Then you have even Jacksonville and the Chargers, depending on Herbert, how he plays. Can't believe I'm saying Jacksonville is a key game, but when you think about it, it sort of is. And then the Monday night matchup, we'll see if San Francisco's for real with Jimmy G at the helm. We'll see if our teams can get off the schneid and win our first games. I think we really, really want that for our Bengals and Raiders. I think we should end it here. We had a fun time, of course. Again, hard to get us together with our crazy schedules, but to talk football with you is always a pleasure. And you have any final thoughts about the 5th episode of Punt Off?
I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank not you, because nobody watched this program. Because guess what? It was pre-recorded, so go figure. So no, folks, we are not ignoring your questions or anything like that. We're just pre-recorded because we've been working I've been working every single day. You've been working every single day. It's just being an adult. Life is hard. I mean, literally, I'm in a brick wall in the alleyway recording this. Obviously, I'm not recording it. I mean, it's literally just this. But obviously, happy to do the show. And I can't wait to see what happens. And I swear, in Algorit's internet, I'm going to be in the DC universe to get a cape and become super mad if Joe Burrow gets sacked in this game, which I know he will. I'm not going to be surprised. If Joe Burrow continues to be on that pace for 100 sacks, I can't give him a real max. My brother's going to get 3 hours of sleep. But I am going to be pissed. So again, I want to thank nobody for watching because again, this is pre-recorded. We're not ignoring questions. James, myself, James, you can punt off, and I can also punt off. And we will see y'all next time. this season, how are they going to win a division?
Would be interesting if that happened. 2 touchdowns